Ethics being for inviting me to speak in this meeting room, and it's due to an ethic dilemma that recently occurred in Sweden. And as this case has been written and talked about in Swedish media, I will use the name of the museum when necessary, because I fear something similar might have happened or will happen in many other museums. And this is why I wish to put light on the question of use, or rather misuse, of artificial intelligence in museum work. I'm not out to hang anyone, but to raise awareness and caution when using this important tool. As Lena said, my name is Lena Millinger, and I used to work in the Malmö Museum of and I'm talking about that museum. And I was acting as a board member in ICOM for many years, and then in the MPR committee, which was once a committee of its own. And as Lena said, I am very interested in ethics, and I've been working as an educator for ICOM in museums on ethical issues and on the code of ethics. In the beginning of this century, I was also the project leader of a year-long EU-supported project called Migrating Memories. The idea for this project came from my meeting a Holocaust survivor and realizing the importance of safekeeping memories. I wrote a book about this survivor's life. It was published in 2021 and translated into English in 2024. It's called Because There Were No Children in Ravensbrück. It is the story of Gladys and Ivan Newman. Now I would like to share some pictures from my overhead. Let me see if I can make that happen. This is the book that I'm talking about. And now let me jump to the case that I would present to you today. On May 1st this year, I read in the morning, as usual, the morning paper on my book, and my heart almost stopped. One of the headlines read, AI put makeup on the museum's Holocaust survivor. And there is the picture of Ivan Newman, the man I wrote the history about as a child. The following day, the story reached several other media and caused an outrage in the cultural circles of Sweden. Violation of cultural heritage and individuals, violation of copyright, distortion of history were some of the words used. But let me first take you through the background for this catastrophe. In April 1945, a rescue operation called the White Buses, led by the Swedish Count Bernadotte from the Red Cross, had been sent out to rescue Scandinavians trapped in German concentration camps. Seeing the horrible situation in the camps, these buses and lorries decided to rescue as many survivors as possible and take them back to Sweden. In this way, several thousands of women and men and some children were saved and came to Malmö. A reporter and photographer was sent from magazines in Stockholm to report on the arrival of these people who were in a terrible state of years of suffering in concentration camps. The photographer was K.W. Gerlers. and he documented these first days in Malmö. One of the pictures was of an Hungarian boy, 9 years old, in a hospital bed. This picture was taken on May 1st, 1945. In January 1998, an email arrived at Malmö museums. A Holocaust survivor was searching for ways to prove his past. He had been incarcerated in Germany in the Ravensbrück concentration camp 1944 and 1945 as a child, and brought to Malmö by the white buses of the Red Cross. But his name was nowhere to be found in the registers of Ravensbrück, and he was now in desperate need for proof and turned to the museum that in that summer of 1945 housed survivors from the German concentration camps in its exhibition rooms, which was a unique and powerful act of solidarity to prove that cultural institutions are part of society, as said the museum director of that time. I helped the man find proof of his story. He said he knew he had his picture taken on arrival, and in the museum archives, I found the clippings from the newspaper of this time. The boy turned out to be Ivan Newman, living in the United States at that time. And that picture taken by K.W. Gullers is part of the collections today of the Nordic Museum in Stockholm. In 2015, this is not the exhibition, I don't have a picture of that exhibition. In 2015, that year of the intense refugee situation in Europe and in Sweden, Malmö Museum put up an exhibition called Welcome to Sweden, presenting pictures and stories of people who had come to Sweden after World War II. This exhibition was mainly used for school children to start discussions and understand migration. It featured some pictures of survivors of the Holocaust. In 2020, the Living History Forum in Stockholm created an exhibition on the white buses, and that's the one in the overhead. And they asked me if I knew something about the boy in the hospital bed. And I certainly did, and started to tell his amazing life story. In this exhibition, the story of Ivan Newman was highlighted, and the iconic picture of him as a child survivor taken by the photographer Gullers had been blown up as a hallmark on this exhibition. Later, I used that picture as the cover of my book. Now we come to the present day. When Malmö Museum in 2024 decided to renew the exhibition Welcome to Malmö, they wanted to include the story of Ivan Newman. Both Ivan and I were very happy and proud that this story would be presented in the museum. Mr. Newman said that he was grateful that the Swedes had helped him in 1945 and in 1998, and were also today helping by keeping the memory of the past alive. On request from the museum, I produced a text to support his picture and delivered a high-resolution picture to be included in the exhibition. The updated exhibition was opened on January 25 this year. By the end of April, 3 months later, a visitor noticed that some of the pictures were strange, and Ivan's picture was among these. They had been manipulated. Eyeliners, plucked eyebrows, red lips, strange hairstyles, wrinkle-free faces and hands had distorted the pictures of several Holocaust survivors. This visitor sounded the alarm and called on museum staff to explain these atrocities and called in the press. On May 1st, 80 years after Ivan Newman had had his picture taken and published in a Swedish newspaper, his picture was again in the Swedish newspapers, only this time with the heading I A AI put makeup on the survivors of the Holocaust. It's brutal, one of the reporters say. And they ask, isn't it extra important to be authentic considering the topic and the people who are presented and the photographs who are the originals? It was a catastrophe, an outcry. As it turned out, the museum had used an AI manipulated version of these iconic original pictures and obviously, which is worse, not noticed the disfigured faces of the survivors. As media started asking questions, the museum staff had no real answers as to how this could have happened and passed by and was passed by the exhibition manager without anyone noticing the manipulation. It took a vigilant visitor to detect the falsified pictures. The visitor was told that the museum had only ordered a brush-up of the original photographs from the exhibition designer, but that an AI filter had been added without their knowledge. The visitor, I do wish we all had that kind of visitors in our museums, could not understand how these pictures had been able to pass the museum professionals. It takes the focus off the importance of the exhibitions, she said. You kind of rewrite history. A new generation of school children are visiting the museum, and when they see this, they will get the wrong impression of what has happened. She concluded, it is otherwise a fantastic exhibition, really celebrating the strong survivors who took their lives back. But changing their faces is not the right way to show it. In the view of this criticism, I'm going to let you see this picture now. So this is what Ivan Newman looked with his eye, no, in artificial intelligence supported face. And to make it worse, the museum put up a small disclaimer underneath the texts and said, as you can see down, the photograph has been improved by the assistance of artificial intelligence. Yeah. I was so upset and terrified that my museum, had taken such a deplorable action and felt I had to apologize to Mr. Newman on behalf of my old workplace. You can see here the different faces. This is the original to the right and the made-up face to the left. Mr. Newman answered, I am unsure how properly to respond to people who are deniers and want to make up the past to suit their purpose, instead of accepting the past the way it was, with living proof of authenticity. Do you know what they have done taking my picture after 80 years, maliciously using artificial intelligence and make me look different to suit their purposes? Yes, time changes. Yes, artificial intelligence can be used to facilitate tasks. Yes, young people are used to see AI generated improvements of their friends and heroes. But does this mean that museums will do the same? Does it mean that old original pictures are boring? Can Picasso be made up? Or the pharaohs? It's faking history, the in thing right now. What about moral authenticity, history, research, knowledge, originals, trust, museum ethics, and professionalism? So, my question today, or to all of us, as I'm not working in a museum anymore, but I am a museum person in my heart. And this has taken me, it's an incredible act. And I want to point out the dangers, that we need the ethic committee more than ever. We need to reconsider what it is to be a museum person. Because if you use artificial intelligence and you do not look at it with your professional eyes, this can lead to the lack of respect for history. Like here in this case, the misuse of museum objects. For which purposes, I don't know. And important enough is that the copyright of the photographs, you cannot just alter photographs, especially not in museums. It is a total misuse of audience confidence, the confidence that is put into museums. It's an unprofessional handling of history. Lack of ethics educations in museums, perhaps. These people, some of these people who were in these pictures that were disfigured, they are alive, as is Ivan Newman. But even if they had not been alive, this is an atrocity. This is something that should not happen in museums. Well, by the way, I don't live in Malmö, so I cannot go and check if the photographs have been altered. I think they have. Well, people told me so. But the damage is done. The damage is done, and we need to address it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you have to, if you can mute yourself, then I will leave you the floor to you. Yes.
Shall I
Thank you.
stop recording, Lena?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, Lena, for this